Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lit Chat. Today we're going to talk about more modern reinterpretations of some of Shakespeare's classic literature. I'm Luke Barrett.
And I'm Cate Kurtz.
And I'm Natalie.
And welcome to the show. So
to prepare for today, I put together a list of all the kind of modern Shakespeare adaptations I'd ever seen, and then I have a little footnote at the end for the ones that are really popular but I haven't seen yet. And the first one I have on my list is Lion King, because of course it is. Probably, I'm going to make a bold claim and say it's probably the most famous and well-known adaptation of Shakespeare in the United States, at least. Some information on The Lion King for maybe the one listener who hasn't seen it yet. Came out in 1994. Directors Rob Minkoff and Roger Ehlers, Matthew Broderick, Jeremy Irons, James Earl Jones, and among others making up the voice cast. And while I was looking up information about the movie, I found out a fun fact. On its release, it was the second highest grossing film of all time, second to my favorite movie, Jurassic Park. Now, adjusted for inflation, it is roughly number 40, and it has been beaten out by Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me 3, and Minions. Minions was much higher than The Lion King.
Oh, no.
I love being disappointed.
Yeah, I remember watching The Lion King as a kid. That was a fun one. Didn't realize it was Hamlet, and then you grow up and everyone's just like, oh, it's Hamlet.
It's kind of Hamlet.
But like, how did
how
did you guys find out it was Hamlet though? Did you like read Hamlet and cross it with Lion King and go, this is suspiciously similar? Because I found out about it in a meme. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm not proud to admit that. But, like, that was my intro to Shakespeare, was through a meme on, like, iFunny. Mm-hmm. That was like, Lion King is the Lions of Hamlet. And then I was like, wow, Shakespeare's cool. Mm-hmm. He's singing it and everything.
I'm sure, I probably saw it as a piece of trivia. Because I was a real Disney kid growing up, so I'd have all like the little extra books, and I feel like I definitely did not read Hamlet first, right? And then make the connection. I didn't read Hamlet till high school, but I think it popped up as like a meme, and maybe online as a piece of trivia. Did you know it's inspired by Hamlet? And then imagine my surprise when I read Hamlet, and it's a little different.
Yeah,
Hamlet's a lot sadder than The Lion King, you know, and by the end of it, everyone's like ankle deep in blood, you know, which is not really a part of The Lion King, except like maybe the hyenas, but that's like off screen, you know.
Although to be fair, the king doesn't die in Hamlet.
Yeah,
he dies beforehand. Simba watched Mufasa get run over by a bunch of wildebeests.
Yeah, they're wildebeests.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah.
And then Mufasa's ghost didn't come back. So, there were no ghosts in The Lion King.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah, there
was. Wait, what?
Are you kidding
when
me?
he doesn't want to go home.
Yeah,
and Rafiki.
Yeah, sorry. Rafiki sends him on the little quest, and he's standing on a ledge, and then he's like, "What am I gonna do?" And then like the heavens open up, and he's like, "Simba, remember who you are." You know what I mean?
No, that's the ghost.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
To be fair to you, they do change the order of things on the law. So it's not like he shows up at the beginning, which that did not occur to me until just now, because I guess I never thought about it that. With The Lion King, you almost get, like, the prequel to Hamlet, and then Hamlet starts in the first act, the end of the first act.
You know, the more I think about The Lion King, the more I feel like it's not Hamlet. You know, I think it's more just a dysfunctional family unit movie, you know? There's like a little bit of killing in it.
Well, the family is functional except for Scar.
Yeah, Scar. Oh, man.
Voiced by Jeremy Irons, who's wonderful.
Oof, Scar. There's also, like, the class system that's kind of showcased in Lion King is interesting. And I don't know if I got that when we read Hamlet this past fall. So, the more I talk about it, the more I don't know if I buy it anymore.
Yeah.
However, you mentioned that Lion King 2.5 or 1.5?
1.5.
1.5. Yeah, my favorite thing is that Lion King 1.5, which is entirely about the greatest characters of all time.
Agreed.
Timon and
Of
Pumbaa
course.
is the Lion King universe version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which is just this existential trip following Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who are side characters who are given no lives or last names or meanings for existence other than to talk to Hamlet.
They don't even die on stage.
Yeah.
They don't even die on stage.
And if you don't die on stage in Shakespeare, like, were you an integral character? You know?
I guess. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing. I got confused with the Greeks for a second, because the Greeks always kill their people off stage, but Shakespeare was all about
Yeah.
that.
Well, especially with Hamlet. I mean, I think the only people we don't see die on stage is maybe Yorick and the King Hamlet. Because he's already
Polonius.
dead before it starts. We see him die behind the curtain.
Yeah.
He's
But he's behind a curtain.
But that's still
But he's
technically
on stage. It's not like he
he's not
staggers off stage,
Yeah.
and then Gertrude goes off stage. She comes back.
That's
She's like,
true.
Polonius is dead. That's like a half death. We'll give that a half point.
Okay.
And then Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets to die on stage.
Does
Yeah.
Ophelia die on stage?
No.
I
Yeah,
forgot her
because-
because her funeral's on stage, so we
and they-
see her dead,
Yeah.
but we don't because it's ambiguous.
It's ambiguous.
I can't believe I forgot about.
Oh, come on, guys.
She's my favorite.
I
Did you
guess-
even take Shakespeare?
It might also be because, like, the fun deaths in Shakespeare were the ones where, like, somebody got stabbed because they would
Yeah.
have inflated pig organs and stuff
Yes.
with fake blood, and then you poke them, and the crowd would go wild because there was blood spread everywhere. And you can't really do that with people who get their whole heads cut off, or the person who drowns in Ophelia's case.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be, like, a logistical reason for it. God, I'm a fucking nerd.
But you're right. But I mean, you're right.
He is a nerd.
You get the one. No, but like when you think about the constraints of the
Yeah.
time, I mean, you've got the exit pursued by a bear, which that one is the most.
That's a good one.
I think the most you can do on stage with some of the deaths
Yeah.
that Shakespeare's cooked up, because they were a lot more liberal with their use of bears in the 1600s. It wasn't as weird.
Classic. I guess in a literal sense, a classic. So,
But you were talking about Lion King 1.5,
yeah.
and then we got off.
Yeah. That tends to happen to us. But yeah, it's a very fun movie that follows Timon and Pumbaa's story, and it's not because it's aimed for kids. It's not quite so depressing and existential. It is funny for, puns and fart jokes
Yeah.
instead of, the terrible absurdity of existence, which is good.
And there's fun musical numbers, too.
Yes.
But one of them is about
Yeah.
the purpose of existence. I forgot. I don't know how I'm trying to phrase that. But
No.
that's Timon's character arc, is they have to dig a tunnel.
Yeah.
And that's the opening song.
Oh, yeah!
Because it was very popular if you listen to Radio Disney, because they did different covers of it, but with, I think Raven Simone was popular at the time, and she did a cover
Wow.
of Grazing in the Grass
Really?
for the movie. But yeah, dig it, because it's about how the meerkats, all they do is dig. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that, there's a quote from the movie, too. I watched it maybe 15 years ago. He's like, we dig so we can hide, and we hide so we can dig more. And Timon's quest is spurred by the fact that he just wants something better in life.
Which is, like, so interesting to me because, I don't know, when I watched it and, now thinking back on it, it really feels like they use humor to kind of, like, veil the fact that they're both alone. And they're kind of these sad characters who don't have a
Don't
purpose.
we all? Don't we all?
Me. But I don't know, it's like kind of like that. And then also, it's so cyclical in nature. Like if you continuing the dig, you have nothing really to live for but this one purpose. And for them, they have really nothing to do but tell jokes and lift up logs and be like, oh my god, there's a bug under here. That's cool.
But then Simba comes into their
Yes.
lives. They parent him.
And they Hakuna Matata.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they get involved in politics,
Exactly.
which surely
Yeah.
is the answer to Timon's problems.
Yeah.
He doesn't find a solution first, but he makes a friend, but that wasn't his problem. Like, he didn't really have friends when he was living in the meerkat area,
I mean,
but he had family, so it's not.
I guess
Yeah.
you could view Hakuna Matata as, like, the solution to the problem, which is, in the face of a meaningless existence, you just live the best life you can and have the most fun you can.
But here's the thing.
And eat bugs.
Yeah.
I just don't think they believe it, though. Like, I really don't think.
Timon and Pumbaa?
Yeah, I really don't think they believe the whole Hakuna Matata idea. I think they're kind of championing it, but I just don't buy it.
It's their song.
I just don't buy it.
I think for Timon, and now I'm thinking, like, there's some thought put into this film. 'Cause it's like he's doing the same thing that he didn't like doing with the meerkats, where it's like, what's the purpose of life? But just in a different way that it's easier for him to ignore. But then I remember this film better than I thought. Pumbaa's the one who's like, there's trouble going on around us. We can't keep living like this.
Yeah.
We do. And that's when they have their big third act fight and they stop being friends and Pumbaa leaves before Timon and then Timon has to catch up.
Exactly. Like, everything isn't all Hakuna Matata. There is no worry. Because whenever they sit there saying, oh, there's no worries, they're still in that, like, that vicious, like, cyclical, thing of living where they don't have something to live for because they're living for the idea that they don't need anything. But because of that, they're still in a vicious cycle of wanting to have something because they think they have something, but in reality they don't, because really they're just singing a song about how they don't need a purpose in life when in reality they do.
And then parenthood is their purpose in politics.
Parenthood in politics. It solves everything.
If only Hamlet had had a baby.
Yeah, I mean, that's why...
that would have solved all the problems.
I mean, that's why...
Sure.
Right, maybe if he hadn't been so spoiled and narcissistic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, interestingly, before we jump topics to another show, I think little known fact is that The Lion King 2 is a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yeah, that is a well-known fact to me.
Oh, is it? I haven't seen it, so things I don't know aren't well known.
It's amazing.
Because I'm a man.
See, I'm biased because it came out when I was, like, little.
Wasn't her name, like...
It was...
Kiara.
Oh,
Kiara.
And Kovu.
Oh, Kiara and Kovu were everything.
And I liked that movie so much as a kid.
Yeah.
And I still do. It's beautifully animated, actually.
Movie.
It is beautifully, like, the coloring looks really good. The story
is amazing.
I did see one thing from it, and it was just very weird to me that Simba, after everything he went through, being Hamlet,
was like
killing his uncle, and then, became like this prejudiced, autocratic leader of the Pride. That's weird.
But, maybe there's a lesson to be learned there, that even, I think we can compare this to modern politics, the people who are considered progressive when they're young and fresh and new, give it about 30 years into their career, and now granted in the Lion King universe it's been like 2.
Right. But for them
in Lion years that's like 30 years. And it's not, it's not, they can't always keep up with the times.
I mean, I think another part of it is just the fact that, see, I'm going to argue that, because I think Simba... I don't think it's a prejudice thing. I think he's afraid to see his family hurt again. Because Kovu comes from the same little clan of lions that was working...
It's like a cult.
Yeah, that was, like, working with Scar. And I think he, kind of sees a lot of himself and potentially, like, Mufasa in his daughter, Kiara. So whenever she starts kind of going with this other guy, he's afraid she's going to get hurt, just like he had.
And it's a classic... dad wants to be possessive of his daughter's sexuality.
Right.
You see that in films all the time.
However, they still get married at the end.
Married.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's an entire comic series, an official one, just of Lion King, and part of it is all the kids of Kiara and Kovu, as well as the fact that Kiara has siblings. Now, I tried to find that as a kid. That was before the internet was, like, wide enough to pirate all of it. But it was magnificent when I had the opportunity.
There is an unusually active, dedicated, and large fan base to the Lion King sequels.
Yeah.
And
I am a part of it.
You can find it on DeviantArt. People, I don't know if this is like a precursor to the furry movement. I think it is.
No.
It's no problem. I did not come here to furry bash today. But that, like, you make your lion character, and, like, people will make these dedicated comic series and stories. Yeah. Some of which I've dipped my toe into because we're having to be dipped. I don't have, like, a lion persona. But of course I'm familiar with it, and I knew, as soon as you brought it up, I knew what you were talking about.
See, I can't even fault you for that, because when I was a kid, I was, like, an avid player of dress-up games, and I think on, like, Doll Divine or, like, .com, there was a lion one, and I used to go on there, and I would make the characters from Lion King, because I thought it was fun. So I can't fault you. But enough of that. We have more stuff to talk about.
So much more.
A comprehensive list.
Yeah, Natalie has a comprehensive list.
You want to talk about Romeo X Juliet?
Oh, heck yeah, I want to talk about Romeo X Juliet.
Important distinction. So you have Romeo plus signed Juliet.
Yes.
Which is the Baz Luhrmann version that came out in 1996. It's got DiCaprio in it.
Arguably the worst.
I think I've seen a scene from that, and actually, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I was impressed when I was back in high school, because, you know, I'm only 2 years out of high school. I'm a young lad, but it was impressive.
And we can get to that, too, because I can talk about that film as well, but what Kate and I figured out, so the series we're about to talk about is called Romeo X Juliet.
Very important.
Very important distinction. This came out 10 years after the Baz Luhrmann film in 2007. This is a TV series, actually, and an anime.
Yeah, and I think you can argue that it reinvented the idea of Romeo and Juliet.
So, it was directed by, I hope I say this right, Fumitoshi Oizaki, and like I was saying, it's a Japanese animated version of Romeo and Juliet. And I was surprised that Kate had seen it. And for me, I really enjoy the series. I watched it as a kid. It came out in 2007, so I was probably,
I was like
11 when it came out, or 12.
I think I was 9 when it came out.
I can't do math. No, I was
born in 98.
Yeah. Well, then I was born in 1997. Regardless,
okay.
Adolescent age. And I own the DVD box set.
Oh my god.
I enjoy this series a lot.
Okay,
and Kate does not.
See, I can't lie, because I own the manga. Like, that was my intro to it, because my friend in middle school got it for me for Valentine's Day.
Precious.
I know.
Which is a weird flex for Valentine's Day, considering they die at the end.
My, like, platonic friend was like, you know what I think defines our friendship? Romeo X Juliet. Like, I think her mom had bought it for her from, like, Barnes & Noble's really small anime section. But it's a weird freaking anime, man.
Oh, I guess we should.
Yeah, kind of describe
for
it. For
everybody. Luke's never seen it.
I haven't seen it. How accurate is it to the plot?
So not. I was going to say not.
Not at all.
So, a brief synopsis. Romeo X Juliet kind of combines elements of different Shakespeare plays. It's mainly Romeo and Juliet, but you've got elements of Twelfth Night, a little bit of Hamlet, maybe Macbeth, I can think of the top of my head. Shakespeare is in it. He plays a character. And so it's kind of...
He's like a Virgil to Dante kind of character in this.
He's in it, and it's kind of set in like a sci-fi / fantasy universe.
Yeah, like, it's weird because it's supposed to... Like, everything looks like cottages.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what time period of England.
There's no time.
It's like anime England, you know?
Well, it's called Neo Verona. Is what it's set in. It's called Neo Verona. It's like floating. It's floating island.
Yes,
because of course it is. But it's designed like 1600s England,
and they're at war in this.
Well, kind of.
Are they kind of at war?
So the backdrop, spoiler alert, although this happens in the first episode, is that you have the Capulet family, and they are like the ruling family of Neo Verona, and so you've got Juliet and her parents. And in the first episode, we do a flashback, and as it would turn out, Lord Montague, who is like a bastard brother to Lord Capulet in this version, decides that he wants to take over the throne, and because he's got kind of an ambiguous blood claim to it, he assassinates the entire Capulet family in cold blood, and Juliet escapes. She's like the heir. She's like the heir to the family. She escapes with the nurse, who's named Cordelia, I think, in this version, and they make her hot. She's not old. She's like 2 years older than Juliet.
Can I say
You're
something?
raising your hand. Yes, ma'am.
I need to say something. This is the plot of Anastasia. Like, DreamWorks Anastasia.
Literally, I was about to say, is this the Romanovs?
She kind of looks like
is-
Anastasia, too. Should they give her red hair?
Is he in the castle? Is Romeo in the castle when she escapes? Because I have a distant memory of them
No.
being friends when they're younger.
Oh, I don't know. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but he's not in not in the first episode.
Okay, good.
Maybe later, but not in the first episode. So she escapes.
Can we talk about how they met?
We can talk about how they met in a minute.
Stupidest way.
So Juliet and the nurse, whose name is either Cordelia or Cornelia. I think Cordelia, because that's in King Lear. And there's like a personal guard. He escapes with her. I forget what his name is and who he's supposed to be.
I thought that was... Oh my god. What was her cousin's name in...
Tybalt?
I thought it was supposed to be Tybalt.
Maybe it is supposed to be
Yeah.
Tybalt, because some of the characters have their names changed, and the story is changed so much that if you didn't have a really good familiarity with Romeo and Juliet and all of the characters, and you're able to pick up on little hints, you can't always tell who everybody is. And so this is where the Twelfth Night element comes in. So because Juliet is the heir to the throne, there's like political reasons for them to hide her. As it will turn out later, there's also like supernatural reasons, which we can get to that. And so
we'll unpack that later.
For the audience, I was very shocked.
And so they disguise Juliet as a boy, and the series starts. It's been like 14 years since it all went down, maybe 12. So they've cut her hair, they've disguised her as a boy, and she is hiding with, Luke is so surprised, she is hiding out with Shakespeare. He's running like the Globe Theater, and it's before he's written any of his big plays. So they have him as a writer, even though he was an actor. But I don't expect... he started with acting, though, didn't he?
I think it's... Yes, I believe so. I mean, he joined a theater company and then was writing at the same time. So they were producing a lot of his plays, but also other stuff for a little while.
They don't go too deep into it.
See, here's the thing with that, though. I think the idea with having Shakespeare present was saying that the play he would then write called Romeo and Juliet is based on this story.
That's what happens at the end after everybody's dead.
Yeah.
You see him writing.
Oh, sorry, spoiler
alert.
Everyone dies at the end and turn into trees.
We'll get there.
Okay, so can I just start asking questions about
go
this
ahead.
from what I remember of Romeo and Juliet's
wait,
plot?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Oh, how they meet.
How they meet is she's a vigilante and she's running from the guards.
I forgot that
And
she stops crime.
Yeah, she stops crime in the
Because
city.
Lord Montague is an
freaking criminal.
authoritative dictator, and he just kills people for no
Yeah, and she's running from them because she just stole, I think, money or something for some kids or whatever. And then she almost falls off, like, a drop-off point because they're in a floating city. And then, what is it? Romeo catches her ankle, and that's his tip-off that she's a girl. He's like, wow, this person's, like, ankle's really small.
He figures out pretty quick.
Yeah, he's like,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure you're a girl. And it's like, what? And then they get married.
Well, kind of.
Oh my god, but then
you
they
skipped
kiss.
a lot in
I know,
between.
but they kiss with Josh Groban's "You Raise Me Up."
Stop
playing.
it. That's the best part. It's a Japanese cover of You Raise Me Up.
It's not.
Well, the
It's like-
credits is a Japanese
know,
cover. It's
but
by
they-
Inari.
They also have it in English, sung by a girl. It's everything.
How did I forget about that?
Um,
I was watching because this was before you could watch a lot of anime legally, so the first time I watched it, I was watching the dub. Is it in the dub? Or no,
There
the
is a
sub, not the dub, the sub.
I watched the dub on YouTube.
Okay.
Before. But you had some questions, Luke.
Yes, questions.
Yes. Okay. So,
We are the gatekeepers.
the monk.
I don't think he exists.
Yeah, she's got like this group of rebels who are like, because they find out. So also in the first episode, she turns 16, and that's like the royal age of majority.
Yeah.
And so she has no idea what her real identity is, and so they reveal to her that she's like the heir to the throne, and they've spent the last 14 years gathering together like this group of rebels, and they're like gonna help her take the throne back. It's very Game of Thrones. But I think he's supposed to be a character in it, but otherwise he's not. Yeah. I don't think there's a specific character.
Interesting.
I had a question as well. So, if Romeo's going to be this, is he like in the son of Count Montague?
He's still the son of Montague.
Okay, but if Montague's a bastard son, I mean, there is a slight relation to the Capulet.
Gosh.
Oh my God. Are they cousins?
I think so.
Romeo and Juliet? Oh, no. I guess it's not a massive problem because neither of them have like kids in it, and they would die at like 16. Yikes. Actually, I feel like Romeo is 18.
He's a little older. I think.
He's older.
It's not too important, but I think her age is important because
16.
Because they're 16.
And she's like, I am now Juliet. They had like a name they called her beforehand, but that doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it was You looked at Luke. He hasn't seen it.
I don't know.
It was some Shakespeare. It was another Shakespeare name.
Was it Juliet?
No.
Because the original. It's funny because the original story that Shakespeare used to create Romeo and Juliet was the tragédie. I don't know if it's probably not pronounced that way at all, and I'm terrible. But it's the tragedy of Romeus and Juliet with the E-T-T-E.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was? Oh, what's Viola's name? Sebastian?
Cesario.
It's not Cesario, but it would be funny if it was.
That'd be good.
What else can we say about the anime series? I like it. It's interesting to me to see a different cultural perspective on Shakespeare, because I feel like so often all I get is either British or American.
Yeah.
And I know that they exist. I was doing some research the other day actually on like very hard to find Japanese films that are retellings of things like King Lear and Macbeth and Hamlet, and they never got Western releases, so they're impossible to find. This is a really unique take.
It sounds very interesting. Where is it available to those of us who are curious about
Crunchyroll, I think.
Yeah.
At least it was Crunchyroll. You can find, I think, clips on YouTube because it got a Funimation release.
I thought it did.
I want to say Funimation did the dub and they released it, and so you can find, I think, at least you used to be able to, some official clips from them online if you're just interested. I got the DVD set from Borders when that store was still open.
Nice.
That's how long I've had it.
I figured out why they die at the end.
Because she turns into a tree.
But there's a reason why.
The
Just to hold the island up.
What?
It's to hold the island up.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
So, okay. It kind of like is every Pokemon movie.
So also, the reason that Juliet is so important to the plot, other than trying to get her throne back, is that, as it would turn out, Neo Veronis, it's a floating island, is kept floating by this giant tree called Yggdrasil, I think.
Oh, yeah, the world tree.
Yes, it's the world tree.
Yeah.
And
weird.
It is weird. Kind of like mixing some Norse mythology in there as well. That's Norse, right?
No, yeah, because her alias is Odin.
Odin.
And then she goes by, I know, Luke's freaking out. And then her, like, vigilante name is the Red Whirlwind.
Oh my goodness. And so as it would turn out, the Capulets have, like, a pact with this tree that I think it's every 20 years. It's a certain amount of years they have to sacrifice a young woman to the tree. And so she becomes like the guardian spirit of the tree, and she keeps the island floating. And so most of the series is Romeo and Juliet falling in love, him falling out of favor with his father and getting disowned. Although I don't think it's for murder. I think it's just for not taking his side.
But then
the tree element comes in.
And here's the funny part about the tree element. Is the character who implements that, her name is Ophelia, which I know, and she's kind of alluded at being like the physical version of the tree to kind of essentially hunt down whoever is the Capulet that they need to like kill so the tree survives.
Yeah.
So she tries to go get Juliet whenever Juliet's been captured by the Montagues. And that's also how Romeo dies, because Romeo dies trying to save Juliet from Ophelia, even though Ophelia at this point has already seal Juliet's fate.
Yeah.
And
because Juliet's ready to give herself up. I think.
She like 100%
like
wants
they
to
get the
die.
throne back,
Yeah.
and then she's like, if I need to die for all these people to live, that's what I'll do. And
Yeah.
Wow.
so
Which
there's
is-
no poisoning.
There's no poisoning. They both die. And then so she's like, well, Romeo's already dying. I'm about to die. So she holds him, and they die together while they're absorbed into the tree.
And then plot
What?
twist, somehow Juliet, in sacrificing herself to the tree, is able to make it so that Neo Verona is no longer floating,
Yeah.
and it descends neatly to the ground.
Love that.
And
like-
so no more cycle of sacrifice.
And then the ending is Josh Groban's You Raised Me Up, which is hilarious because, oh my god, you raised me up. The island has to be raised up.
Which they might, and I've just forgotten it, but I feel like they never give a good reason as to why they kept sacrificing young women in order to keep the island floating.
Because I have no idea why.
Because there's no reason for it. I don't know. It's not like the world will fall apart if it
The
goes down.
patriarchy.
It doesn't power anything. They don't make any money off of it.
I feel like I think it was like the Capulets were the ones who, I don't know, some like magic bullshit,
Yeah.
maybe.
Here's something interesting about this version that I forgot until I looked it up today. At the end, the nurse, because they make everybody young and hot in this version, gets married to Benvolio,
Heck
and
yeah.
they have a baby. And
OTP.
that's-
OTP.
That's our signal that things are gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's like everybody else died, horrible like political upheaval, a dictatorship, but now it's okay.
Nice.
And now Shakespeare's gonna write his plays.
However, Benvolio is not Romeo's cousin or a member of the
I think they're just
Montague
friends.
family in this play.
Yeah.
It's just a dude.
Yeah,
I think
which
he's
is
just
weird.
like they're friends, and he's very like all the characters in the series are drawn very willowy and feminine, which
Yeah.
I'm still kind of about as an aesthetic. But
Is there still a weird, like, drunken Mercutio going around just making innuendo and fantasy out of everything?
I think he's actually really serious in this one because he's a
Yeah.
spy. In this
he's a spy.
What?
yeah. Yeah. Which is great.
Oh, here's something: Romeo and Juliet do not have sex in this version.
They do not.
Very
I
explicitly.
mean, this is a true
Did-
love story.
They
of our
never
age.
have sex, which is such an important part of the original play.
Is it?
Well, kinda. She can't get married to somebody else after she, slept with her husband.
But do they do that in the play?
They sleep together, yeah. Because she has that whole speech where she's like, night, like, sun go away, night come faster. Because in Shakespeare's time period, that was the seal of the deal of the marriage. Because if, like, people, maybe not all the time, but for wealthy people, like, if you didn't consummate your marriage, that was grounds for legal divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Or annulment. It would be an annulment, actually.
I also want to point out that in this version, Tybalt is a very calm individual and barely gets mad. However, he also... So here's the best part about this. I think they're called dragon steeds.
Yes, that's something like that. Everybody has a flying horse.
But they're like weird dragon horses. And Tybalt is black, which is just cool. So they all have those. That's whenever, like, that's how Romeo, like, catches Juliet. It's like the ankle thing.
Oh,
Oh.
that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I figured he was, like, leaning over the edge, but he's on a
Yeah.
dragon horse?
Yeah.
What?
Here's something, I just remembered this too, that they
Holy cow.
expand, so they kind of shrink a lot of roles, but then they make some bigger. So, Rosalind, they expand her role a lot, and they don't call her that, they call her Hermione. I don't know why, maybe it's like a translation.
It's based on, Shakespeare had another
Winter's
thing.
Winter's
Yeah.
Tale. I don't know why, I just don't know why. It's clearly Rosalind. Well, kind of, clearly. He never has a romantic interest in her, because of course
Well,
he can't.
Here's the thing.
But she loves him and they're engaged.
When,
Who?
Rosalind, who's called Hermione, is engaged to Romeo.
Can I actually contest that?
Contest away.
Because I looked it up, and she's supposed to be Count Paris.
Oh.
Yeah, but she's a girl. Which it doesn't matter, but...
Huh.
You're right.
Yeah.
I just assumed she was supposed to be Rosalind. I was like, other
Wow.
romantic attachment to Romeo.
Yeah.
I take it back then.
I mean, I will say, though, for all of its weirdness, it's a fun anime.
It's not that long either.
I think it's like 18. No, is it a 12 episode one?
I
thought it was in like the 20s. It builds on the characters in a way that whenever I was like 10, I was like, wow, this is true storytelling. But as I've gotten older, I've grown to hate it more and more.
It's not very deep. But if you like anime and if you like Shakespeare, or even if you just like one or the other, you might find it interesting. I like the animation a lot. I'll give it that. I think the animation is very stylistic, but it still holds up pretty well for being over 10 years old at this point.
Yeah. Thank you for teaching me about this and showing me that I know very little about Romeo and Juliet.
You should immediately watch the anime.
Yes, please.
Yes.
You're welcome. I derailed all of your studying for the next couple of weeks. You need studying when you have anime.
Hard.
But anyway, I guess kind of segueing to our next hot topic, we have Twelfth Night. So we have a couple of iterations under this category.
Mm-hmm.
So which one do you guys want to talk about first?
We could.
Can I just talk about the play for a second?
Yeah,
sure.
talk about the play a little bit.
Oh, I love Twelfth Night.
So good.
I really do. It's the only Shakespeare play that I've actually read that has made me burst out loud laughing.
Yeah.
And I think that it is fun for the whole family, except maybe not the whole family, because there's definitely some inappropriate innuendo and stuff in there.
If you catch it.
Yeah. I guess it could be pretty disguised. I can imagine a lot of kids laughing at the fact that a guy is named Sir Toby Belch. So it's a fun romp where, for those who don't know, a young woman named Viola, her ship wrecks.
With her brother Sebastian.
On board. Twin brother Sebastian.
This is important to the plot. They're twins.
Thank you. And she thinks he's dead, and she gets sad, and she decides that the thing to do is go to the nearby count's house.
There's a Duke.
And the Duke, thanks.
I'm here to get Cate Twelfth Night today.
You're so... Thank you. So Duke Orsino, she goes to his...
Orsino.
I'm just gonna shut up now. Anyway, she goes to his mansion, estate, what have you, under the guise of a man named Cesario, and joins his court as a page, and then tries to help him flirt with this lady he's in love with, Lady Olivia. I did remember that. I swear.
I didn't think so.
I swear. I was about to say it. Oh, man. And so she tries to go flirt with Olivia. Viola, as Cesario, tries to go flirt with Olivia on behalf of Orsino, and what happens instead is Olivia falls in love with Cesario, and Viola falls in love with Orsino, and then it turns out that her brother wasn't actually dead, and he comes onto the shore, and there's this guy named... her brother is Sebastian.
Yeah.
The other guy... Antonio, who is definitely in love with Sebastian.
And I think, arguably, the best couple in Twelfth Night. I rest my 100%
case.
They know who the other is, so that's good.
That's a start.
Well, not at first, but then he reveals his identity.
I mean, they're just amazing in my point of view. Sorry, what were you saying?
He washes up.
So Sebastian washes up because he's not actually dead, and he and Antonio, they basically go and try to hit the town, and what happens is everybody falls in love with everybody. There's a big case of mistaken identity where Sebastian gives Antonio lends Sebastian some money, and then Antonio runs into Viola as Cesario and is like, hey, do you have this money? And she says, no, because she's not actually Sebastian, and Antonio gets very upset.
Yeah.
Orsino shows up, arrests Antonio because he was at war with Orsino years ago and sunk a bunch of his ships because he's just like a badass sea captain.
Yeah.
And And then while this is happening, simultaneously, Sebastian somehow, like, makes his way to Olivia's estate, and then she sees him, thinks that he's Cesario, and falls in love with him, and he just goes along with it.
He's like, thank you.
So then they just, like, go off and get married within, like, a day.
Yeah.
And
hours
even. Hours.
Main goals.
And then, so that happens, and then there's this final meeting where you've got Olivia, Orsino, Viola as Cesario still, Antonio's, like, in shackles, Sebastian is nowhere to be seen for some reason for the first half of it, and Cesario, Olivia thinks that Cesario is her husband, but Cesario cannot know this because Cesario is actually Viola. Orsino says that he's actually in love with Olivia, and is willing to kill Cesario over that fact, because Orsino is a really great example of toxic masculinity. I think, Natalie, you also talked about that we went over that.
He's so dramatic.
Oh, it's really unhealthy. And
I love it, though. I'll be honest.
You have to have...
I love
You have to have
dramatics.
exactly the right actor
Yes.
to play him, because he's got to be dramatic and
then
funny, but he
Yes.
can't be too scary, or else
Yeah.
you lose the comedy.
Yeah.
What do you hunt, my lord? Oh, I hunt the heart. What?
I love that.
I have this every time I read the opening.
Yeah.
I just have this image of I don't think it's the opening. I think it's like the second. I'm getting it mixed up with the movie. He's like lying on a chaise. He's like, it's dark. People are playing music around him. He's got like, it's me with a headache. Like he's got the back of his hand over his eyes.
So much.
And he's just, if music be the food of love, the strain again, it had a dying fall.
It's so good. Like when we watch, for like a little bit of context and background, all three of us were in a Shakespeare class last semester, and Natalie and we actually watched the 1996 Twelfth Night, and the guy they had for that was perfect. It was all the dramatics. They would watch waves while while Cesario would be like, I'm in love with you, Orsino, but like, you know, he doesn't know it. But then like he's also kind of in love with her as a guy.
We can talk about how they staged that. So
the
ending.
So
the ending.
In the end, the final culminating moment is pretty much Sebastian walks on stage and everything unravels and Viola takes off her disguise and is like, I was actually a woman, and Orsino says, oh fuck, you're a woman, that means I can be in love with you now. Because I was the whole time, but it wasn't cool.
But he won't touch her until she puts her women's clothing
Oh, I hate that so much. I really think that 12th Night could be... I'll get to that. We'll get to that. So then, basically, Orsino and Viola go off and they're gonna get married. Olivia is happily married to Sebastian, and Antonio is freed from his previous crime warrants.
In some versions. Because it's not in the text, I think. So
Isn't it?
In some stagings, they just forget about it.
Oh, no.
And in some, that you get Orsino goes over and he takes off the handcuffs or what have you that Antonio's been placed in. I don't think, I'd have to double check, but I don't think it's in the text.
Wow.
I interject.
Go ahead.
I still don't know why he would release him, though. Like, I don't think Antonio really does anything that would make Orsino go, you know, man, I'm going to forgive you for the war stuff.
Goodwill.
See you later, man. Go off while the fool's playing.
That's like, that was like a thing, though, sometimes when here's my knowledge of like the 1600s, when important people would get married as like a sign of goodwill, they would let some prisoners, it's not just that, like that's a historical thing, like when things were happening they'd say, oh, I'm gonna let it happen with Jesus almost. They're like, we're gonna let this prisoner go.
I mean, they didn't do it in Pirates of the Caribbean too, so
Clearly, the most accurate example. Primary source research. We love it.
By the way,
I'm a history major and I support no.
The fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie made more money than The Lion King.
Oh, no.
That was on the list, too.
I get it. That was actually a kind
On
of
Stranger
movie.
Tides.
I actually liked that movie. I like the Siren. I like the Star-Crossed Lovers. I'm a Romeo and Juliet fan.
Is that an adaptation of Romeo X Juliet? Did we forget that one?
Wind back the tape.
I think they just fight with each other, though, and then they fall in love at the end.
That's basically all of Romeo X Juliet.
Anywho.
Anyway, Twelfth Night is great, and if you haven't read it, you should read it for the Fool and for the Malvolio side plot, in addition to the regular plot, which, although it has not been used for this purpose, I think it is absolutely due for a new adaptation that is incredibly LGBTQIA+ positive, because it has a lot of potential for that. Just literally make Viola and Olivia fall in love, and let Sebastian and Antonio be together, and make Orsino be the one who ends up alone, and that makes it good. There are some renditions of this that do not do that.
Yeah, so the most popular one, just because I'm sure everybody's thinking it, is She's the Man, but what Kate and I are going to talk about is the 1996 version of Twelfth Night, which is not... Okay, so the title of this podcast is Modern, and this is kind of anachronistic. Like, it's almost set in a World War I era, because there's some costuming, but they never say... It's set in this year, in this place, so there's kind of a mix. Like Olivia, who's played by Helena Bonham Carter, wears some dresses that are a little more turn of the century. Well, which I guess is World War I and World War II. In between that area.
Yeah, and I described the movie to Luke a little earlier as, like the covers of romance novels. That's the movie.
No, it is.
They love, like, in any situation... walking the shores of the beach by on rocks.
Yeah, there's a lot of water shots.
A lot of water shots, and a lot of them standing on rocks, looking out at the ocean, and not delivering their line for at least 2 minutes. And that's the movie.
True. Everything dramatic that happens when there's water. Because there's a rain scene that I want to talk about.
Oh, that scene.
There's a scene that happens in the rain that we will talk about.
My favorite scene is still whenever the Fool is playing music while Orsino and Viola as Cesario are together, and they almost kiss. And it is the strongest bout of, like, gay energy I have ever felt from a movie.
Even though she's
secretly a girl.
She's played by Imogen Stubbs.
Yeah.
Who
weirdly looks like the guy who plays Sebastian. Like, it's uncanny how similar they look when she puts a mustache on. It's, oh my god, the final kiss scene. Okay, so at the end, just because it's an iconic scene, when Orsino is like, oh my god, Cesario is Viola. He goes to kiss her, and he slowly takes off her fake mustache.
Which is like, the mustache is like, it's something you'd buy at Dollar General. Like, it's the kind where you take, it'd have like the sticky tab on the back, and you take it off and wear it.
It's played so straight.
It's not funny.
Character. And it's
like, it is funny, but it's not supposed to be.
It's just the most serious, like, I'm in love with you, let me see who you are, and, like, takes the mustache off.
There's also, speaking of scenes that are played weird, there's a scene in the beginning where they're doing, like, the opening credits, where it's a weirdly sexual scene of Viola getting dressed as Cesario. Like, there's shots of thigh, and then she's binding her breasts, and
weird.
And, like, the captain of the first ship is helping her.
Yeah. That was a little weird.
And they never did anything like that again for the rest of the movie.
I think they got it out of their system, you know?
Oh, but my
your rain
favorite scene. Well, favorite's a word for it. The scene that I think about the most often because it was so intense. So they have the almost kissing scene when the Fool comes on and he's playing the sad love song.
Oh, great one.
But then there's a second almost kiss scene, and the Fool is there again for no reason, I think. He's just around, where Cesario and Orsino are walking by the beach, of course.
That one.
And it starts to rain, and so they run to it's like a stable, like an abandoned stable to get shelter, and it's like lit by candlelight. I forget what scene it is, but they're having a deep discussion. I think they've just fought. They've just had an argument about like the character of women, and Viola has her speech where she's like, if I was a woman, then I am all the daughters of my father's house. That conversation, and so they're hiding in this. It starts to rain, and they're hiding in the stable after this, and it's that very 90s thing of like, we just fought, and like we're kind of angry, and it slowly devolves into a lot of sexual tension, which really comes across in the way it's shot, and like
the directors
they start holding hands, and like sexy music with drums is playing in the background, and they almost, like, Viola goes for it. Like, they almost kiss, and Orsino starts to. It's hard to explain this verbally, because it's just so funny to watch, because they play it very straight.
I don't know how they did it.
And they almost kiss, and then at the last minute, he's like, no, and then they go into the next piece of dialogue, whatever it is. But that one has 90s written all over it.
It's so good. Highly recommend. For me, it was probably... It kind of captured how hilarious Twelfth Night is. Mm-hmm. Because they took themselves seriously, but they still knew it was a comedy.
Yeah. Imogen Stubbs is really good.
Yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter, she plays Olivia. She's really good. I'm about to say they don't give her nearly enough to do, but they follow the play pretty closely, so it's not like they can add in scenes. She gets some comedy. She mostly plays her stuff straight, but she gets a little bit of comedy, especially when we get further into the third act, and she's chasing Cesario around, trying to stop him from leaving, and she's doing the, I don't want to talk to your master, unless you were the one to come back. Oh, who else? Not Jeremy. Ben Kingsley.
Oh, he's so good. He's a fool.
He plays the fool.
I know.
And he does my favorite personal interpretation of the fool, where he kind of knows everything that's going on, because he's going from place to place. So, like, there's kind of hints that he figures out the first time he meets Viola that she's a woman. And so anytime he's in a scene with her again, there's kind of hints that, like, he knows, but he's not telling anybody because he kind of wants to see where it goes.
Yeah. Ooh, that's fun.
And the lady who plays Dolores Umbridge, she's in this too.
Oh.
She plays Mariah, or they think they call her Mary in this version. I don't know why. She's pretty good. She doesn't have that much to do, but she's pretty good. She has good chemistry with the actor who plays Toby Belch.
However, I felt really bad for... I don't remember the guy's name, but remember the one where they prank him into...
Malvolio?
Yes. They make you have so many sympathies for Malvolio at the end of this film.
You feel so bad for him.
I felt awful for him. Like, I was like, wow, I don't want to laugh at the film anymore. Malvolio is the real hero, and I'm sad.
Who plays him? Because he plays it. When you play Malvolio, when you stage this play, or when you're reading it, you can interpret Malvolio as wanting to marry Olivia, which, spoilers, he does, kind of for wealth, and so he can shove it in Toby Belch's face that he's higher class than him.
Wait, he does marry Olivia?
He wants to.
Oh,
spoiler alert, he wants to. I might have said...
I think he said spoiler, he does, and I was like...
Spoiler alert, he does want to marry her. Because Malvolio got left out of the abridged version.
Yes.
Sorry. It's Nigel Hawthorne.
He's good. But and you can also play it very straight, where he's really in love with her, and he plays it very straight, and you feel so bad for him.
Yeah. Oh. And you're kind of like, oh, he even did the breeches thing. Now he's a jerk.
And he just kind of like walks off very sadly at the end, and Sebastian's like, I'll go talk to him. Well, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And then he leaves. Like, the last shot is, well, not the last, but like the second to last shot is him walking away with his luggage from the estate, and it's interspersed with the scenes of the wedding. There's like a wedding scene at the end. Everybody's dancing and singing, and he's walking off because he's a Puritan.
And the fool's singing.
And the fool is singing the When I Was a Lad or When I Was a Boy.
Yeah. Which then
the rain and the wind, that song.
Which weirdly frames it as making it seem like Malvolio was like, well, the end of my tale. Like, he almost feels like the main...
It is almost...
He almost feels like the main character.
It's almost his
send-off.
story.
Who
Oh,
can
and there's action
say where the road
And there's
goes?
action scenes in this.
Not Malvolio.
There's action scenes with
there's chase
Sebastian
scenes in this.
and
Like, throwing stuff at people.
and Antonio. There's chase scenes through the village. It's like they're knocking stuff over and trying to run
Yeah.
from the cops, and
It's so good.
I
You
need to
have
see
watch
these
it.
things.
I own it now because I
Yeah.
had to buy it so we could watch it.
It's so
It was
good.
like $2.99 on Amazon. It was
Oh.
But yeah,
Okay.
Twelfth Night is
So-
a wonderful play.
I also
Yeah.
could find no Shakespeare puns.
Aw.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't do that thing that we did with the Greek one. We were like, what's your favorite Greek? I'm surprised we didn't go, what's your favorite Shakespeare pun?
You could always do
well,
it now. And
do we
then
want
we
to
could-
do that to close out the show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to lead, Luke, since you opened?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Because apparently I can't keep a straight face doing it.
My favorite Shakespeare play is Twelfth Night. Hands down.
Yeah. I think mine's Romeo and Juliet because I'm partial because I played Juliet back in the day. So I'm partial, but that one's always going to be my favorite.
I always cheat when I get asked this question, which comes up shockingly often, because my favorite comedy is Twelfth Night, but then my favorite tragedy
Stop.
is Hamlet.
You can't have two.
Hamlet's also very good.
But they're very
Yeah.
different plays.
Yes. Oh.
Wow.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us on this wild adventure of nihilistic prairie dogs.
Meerkats.
Nihilistic meerkats.
God.
Things
Wow,
I
that was
couldn't remember.
insensitive.
Anime lovers and a terrible rendition of Twelfth Night, or
A terribly good
terribly
rendition
good
of
rendition
Twelfth
of
Night.
Twelfth Night. And thank you for teaching me about these things that I didn't know about, and correcting me the many times I was wrong. And I mean that sincerely.
I found a Shakespeare pun.
Oh.
Okay, do you want to close us out with that?
I would love to. Thanks for asking, Luke. So, guys, why did Shakespeare write with ink?
Why?
Because he couldn't decide which pencil to use, to be or not to be. And this was Lit Chat. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks.